this is a wrapping for hip flexor strain. Hip flexor sits in the anterior portion of the hip. Typically with the hip flexor injury, the leg is going to, athlete may plant and that foot may slip back behind them and stretch the anterior structures of the hip flexor muscles. They may also have a real forceful contraction, maybe a sprinter coming out of the blocks, a real forceful contraction of the hip flexors that can also cause an injury. So our goal here with this is to pull the athlete into a little bit of hip flexion, give some assistance to the hip flexor, not allow that leg to go into hip extension. So one thing that I like to use when I do this is to use a compass. All right, so where our hip adductors and abductors pull more west-east direction, maybe west-northwest or east-northeast, depending. Our hip flexor is going to pull more of the north-northwest orientation. All right, so we're kind of pulling up more this way. By doing that, I pull up, I lift, the legs actually get lifted up and is shortening and easing the tension on that hip flexor. So I'm going to start him with the wrap again right here in the thigh. Hold that for me for a second. Yep. Come high in the thigh, come through, dog ear. His foot, if you notice, his foot is neutral. It's not rotated externally or internally because our hip flexor doesn't really do that as much. It just works in a straight line. I'm also going to have his trunk flexed, just maybe 5-10 degrees forward. That also helps to shorten the musculature and ease the tension on it. Pulling medial lateral. I'm not pulling across. Again, I'm pulling northwest. Okay, kind of in this fashion right here. Kind of give you an idea of how this is different than a hip abductor. This one really comes high into the crotch area, so you really have to be careful with where the wrap lays down. Again, we got to make sure we stay high enough above the gluteal shelf. All right. Hold this for me right there. Thank you, sir. Put a couple anchors on here, and each one, again, I can give a little bit of tension pulling in that kind of north-northwest fashion. I can lay a couple of those down in wrapping for the hip flexor.